There used to be a logic to staying home. When the world got too expensive or the gas prices at the corner station climbed too high, you could just stay put. You could close the door, turn off the engine, and let the budget reset. Home was the one place where you could control the burn. But for people like Mark, that logic is starting to fail. He's looking at a 3-page document from his local utility provider. It's not an eviction notice. It's not a credit card summons. It's just the electric bill for a standard 3-bedroom house in a standard American suburb. The dissonance is right there in black and white. Mark used less energy this month than he did last July. He's been diligent. He's kept the thermostat at 78. He's washed the dishes by hand. But the total at the bottom of the page has its own momentum. We've been told that efficiency is the path to stability. But when you look closely at the line items on a modern American utility statement, you realize that the price of just being home has decoupled from how much power you actually use. We aren't just paying for the light. We're paying for the privilege of being connected to a system that is becoming more expensive to maintain than it is to operate. To understand why staying home now feels like a luxury, we have to look past the total and into the hidden architecture of the bill itself. The most significant change in how we pay for home life isn't at the top of the page. It's in the geometry of the math. If you look at a bill from 15 years ago, it was a relatively straight line. You used a kilowatt hour of power, and you paid for that kilowatt hour. The fuel was the cost. But on Mark's current statement, the actual electricity is only about 40% of the total. The rest of the page is a dense thicket of delivery charges, transmission facility riders, and system reliability trackers. This is the decoupling. In the modern American utility system, you aren't just paying for the energy you consume. You're paying for the right to access the wires that bring it to you, regardless of whether you're using them or not. This creates a floor. Even if Mark were to sit in the dark for a month, his bill would never hit zero. There is a baseline cost to being home that has nothing to do with personal responsibility or conservation. It's a structural tax on presence. As the companies that manage these grids face rising costs to keep the physical poles and wires from falling over, they've shifted the burden. They've moved from a usage-based model to a fixed-cost model. For the person at the kitchen table, this feels like a betrayal of the old American deal, that if you worked harder to save, you'd actually see the savings. Now, you can cut your usage in half, and your bill might still go up. There is a physical reason the delivery portion of Mark's bill is ballooning. For decades, the American electrical grid operated on a simple principle: build it once, then run it until it breaks. But much of the infrastructure, the transformers, the substations, the heavy-duty transmission lines, was installed during the post-war boom of the 50s and 60s. It was designed for a different America, one with fewer gadgets and cooler summers. Now, that equipment is reaching the end of its statistical life. We are living through what engineers call the replacement cycle. The cost of this massive, nationwide renovation is being passed directly to the consumer through those reliability and infrastructure riders. This is the hidden structure of the expense. Mark isn't just paying for the electricity he uses today. He's paying the maintenance debt for the last 40 years of neglect. Every time a storm knocks out power 3 towns over, the cost eventually finds its way back to this kitchen table. The grid is becoming more fragile exactly when we've become more dependent on it. Mark is tethered to a deteriorating machine, and his monthly statement is the invoice for its survival. There is a specific kind of frustration that comes with doing everything right and getting the wrong result. For the last decade, Americans have been told that the solution to rising costs is efficiency. We bought the LED bulbs, the sleek computerized fridges, and the smart thermostats. On paper, this should have worked. The average American household uses less energy today than it did 20 years ago. But on the utility bill, this efficiency has triggered a paradox. Because utility companies have high fixed costs, the massive physical network of poles, transformers, and wires, they operate on a revenue requirement. When people use less electricity, the company doesn't just make less money and move on. They often petition state regulators to raise the rates to cover the shortfall. The less we use, the more expensive each individual unit becomes. It's a treadmill. You spend $800 on a new washer to save $5 a month, only to find that the regulatory adjustment has increased by $7. The savings are absorbed by the system before they ever reach your bank account. For Mark, the ritual of saving energy has transformed from a way to get ahead into a desperate attempt to just stay in place. The predictability of the American seasons used to provide a budget a breather. You took the hit in the summer or the winter, but the shoulder seasons were when you built the cushion back up. But as extreme weather shifts from an anomaly to a ritual, the off months are disappearing. This has created a new, invisible climate tax. On Mark's bill, there's a small charge labeled Environmental Cost Recovery. It represents a massive shift in the burden of risk. When a heat wave settles over the state, the utility company buys peak power at a premium and passes it through to Mark. In the old model, the weather was a personal choice. How much comfort are you willing to pay for? In the new model, the weather is a systemic mandate. Mark realizes that average weather no longer exists. Every month is now a gamble against a new record, and the house, the utility company, always covers its spread. The stability of the indoors is no longer a given. It's a high-stakes subscription that renews every 30 days. When a system becomes both essential and volatile, it forces a change in human behavior. We stop treating our homes as sanctuaries and start treating them as assets to be micromanaged. For Mark, the ritual of coming home has been replaced by a ritual of domestic vigilance. This is the hidden labor of the modern utility crisis. It's the mental bandwidth spent calculating whether running the dryer will trigger a peak demand surcharge. We see this behavior change in the way Americans now pre-cool their homes or load shed their own lives during dinner time. We are adapting to a grid that can no longer guarantee cheap, effortless stability. The ease of the American middle-class home, the ability to simply exist in a room without checking the price of the air, is being replaced by a constant, low-grade forensic audit of our own movements. The house looks the same from the sidewalk, but inside, the rhythm of life has shifted. Efficiency isn't a hobby anymore, it's a defensive crouch. This is the final reframe of the modern American home. We look at a house like Mark's from the street and see stability. We see a manicured lawn and lights glowing in the windows. It looks like the same middle-class dream we've been sold for 70 years. But the bill reveals the friction required to maintain that appearance. The contradiction is that we are paying more than ever for a sense of ease that is actually vanishing. Staying home used to be the free option, the default way to save money when life got tight. Now, the home itself has become a high-maintenance system that demands constant financial and mental management just to keep the status quo. The cushion hasn't just been thinned by inflation, it's been designed out of the infrastructure. We are living in homes that look permanent, powered by a grid that feels fragile. paying prices that suggest luxury for a life that feels increasingly precarious. When the simple act of keeping the lights on requires the vigilance of a full-time auditor, home isn't just where you live. It's the most expensive subscription you own.